Hello everybody and welcome to my brand new channel PlayStation 5 Zen Nation, where I will be showing you how to get your Cronus Zen working on PS5 with no issues, including regular updates on all the best settings to use, specifically in Warzone. You have probably seen plenty of posts and videos online saying that you need a Hori controller in order to get this to work. That is not the case. I have one here as you can see, but you do not need a Hori controller to get the Zen working on the PS5. As you may or may not know, the Zen actually cuts off every 5 to 8 minutes if you don't have a donor controller, but you don't need a Hori controller to do this, as I'm going to show you now. First things first, let's get the Zen unboxed, up to date and installed on your computer so you can start loading up your programs and using your Zen. Your Zen has to be connected through the rear and through the side as shown here, otherwise your computer will not pick it up properly. This should already fix some of your troubleshooting problems. With the Zen connected to the computer in the way that I've just shown you, launch the Collective Minds Updater. Next, flip your Zen over and push and hold this little blue button for maybe around 3 seconds and your computer will find the device. Now that your computer has found the Zen, all you need to do is click on the Cronus Zen in the updater and it will bring up a small slider. Now, if you move the slider over to the left, it will allow you to pick earlier firmware versions if you want to downgrade your device or maybe load up an earlier firmware, as you can see here. We're just going to slide it all the way to the right though, and we're going to begin updating and we're going to flash the firmware. Once this is all done and updated, we're going to move on to the Zen Studio. All the links will be in the description for this, and now we can move on to actually getting some scripts loaded. Go ahead and fire up the Zen Studio and you will be taken to a screen that looks like this. Just wait for everything to settle down and now we can start getting everything ready to use on our PS5. The first thing we're going to do is head over to device and just make sure that all of your settings are exactly as you see here. This will solve so many problem solving issues with you later on. Just trust me, just zoom in on the video if you have to, pause it. Look at how I've got it set up, just copy exactly how I've done it here, PlayStation speciality mode, all that stuff, just copy what I've got here. Next, head over to Programmer and have a look for the Call of Duty Warzone Pro pack. This is the only pack you should be using right now. It does need some updates, but it's still the best pack to use for Warzone. Forget the Season 4 one, it's not very good. Just drag and drop it into one of the 8 slots below. I've taken 2 slots and I'll explain why I have done that later on. Click on the little blue number 1 on the Warzone Pro Pack in one of those slots below and it will bring you up to this menu. Make sure that the settings you have are the same as in game. So I use tactical flip, so I'm just going to make sure tactical flipped is on. Stick layout default, stick sensitivity, I have it 7.7, so I'm just going to leave it at 7. Aim response curve type, I use dynamic. I highly recommend you use the same thing. It is really good. Dead zone, if your dead zone is 0.05, leave it at the number 5. As a rule of thumb, that's a pretty standard one to go with. Next, we have global mods. Now, there's all kinds of different global mods here, but honestly, just leave it on slide cancel. It will be the most useful for you and you will not have issues in the game like not being able to reload and drive cars properly. Just leave it on slide cancel mode. For the anti-recoil mode, leave it as ADS anti-recoil quick edit. That is the one that you want to use so that you can actually adjust your values on the Zen while you're playing the game without needing to have a computer. The aim assist sensitivity, I do not use aim assist on the Zen. I actually don't think it's very good. I don't recommend using it. Just turn it off. You honestly don't need it. We're here for the recoil control. It will mess up your aim. For the profile switch mode, put it on weapon swap. This means that when you press triangle, you will be able to swap between the 2 weapons you've programmed on your pack. So it means that when you're using your loadout, whenever you switch gun, it will automatically load the recoil value for each gun. For weapon profile features, leave them all disabled. Honestly, leave these all disabled. It will mess up your game. Now, where it says class 1, this is going to be your first gun in your loadout. So if you use, let's say, a Mac 10 and a Car 98, your Mac 10 will be there, and your Car 98 doesn't really need recoil control, so you won't really be using that. Class 2 primary ADS mods, I leave this all on its own. You can experiment with it and see what's there. There's some like auto ping features, aim assist features. Just disable it. Just trust me on this. I'm going to get this game running really well for you. The anti-recoil working really well. Just leave this disabled. For primary fire mod, I leave this disabled as well. I just don't think you need any of it, to be perfectly honest with you. You've got like strafe shots and different things. Just leave it disabled, you don't need it. This little red class 4 secondary weapon, that is your secondary gun. So I was experimenting with a QBZ and a MAC-10. That's where you put the two guns, okay? So once you have selected the two guns you're going to be using, and again, we can adjust all this on the Zen when we're actually in the game. The more you play with it, the more you get used to it. It's really, really, really simple. Go ahead and set up the second pack exactly the same way. All the tactical flipped, or however you have it, the dead zone settings, the aim response curve type is really important. I set it on the game and the Zen as dynamic. I think it's the best one to use. Try it if you're not trying it already. It's the best one to use. Now, once you have set this all up as your pack 2, remember it's exactly the same as the first one. We can change all the guns on the Zen while we're playing on the PlayStation, and you don't need the computer plugged in, so don't worry about that. Just pick 2 random guns just so that you know it's loaded up properly. It's fine, honestly. Once you've done everything, you've turned off the aim assist, you've got it set up just like the first pack that I've just shown you, you will close out of this and you will click on the save button on the left, which looks like a little play button. Just press save and it will then basically tell you it's saving it to your Zen and it will work. If for whatever reason it crashes or it doesn't work, just unplug the Zen, plug it back in, try it again. It should work the second time, but it usually works straight away. If we go over and have a look at the Zen, you can see that if we press the button on the right of the Zen, we can see the first pack with the QBZ and the second with the Odin. The secondary weapons are there as well. It's just when we press triangle, when we've linked it all up to the PlayStation, it will switch between primary and secondary, and you'll be able to see that on the Zen. So again, don't worry about the weapons you've picked for now. Just pick any 2 just so you can see that it's working, or any 4 rather, the primary and secondary. And now I'm going to show you how to plug it all in and get it working. These next steps are very important. What you want to do is essentially you have to have your PlayStation 5 remote wired. Now, I use the Pulse 3D headset with the dongle on the back of the PlayStation. It works absolutely perfectly. I've not been able to test it with a microphone plugged into the controller because I don't have one. I use a Pulse 3D headset, so you'll have to test that and let me know what you think. Now, what you have to do is turn on your PlayStation with the PS5 controller with the wire in the PS5 controller, but not plugged into the Zen yet. Again, turn your PlayStation on with the PS5 remote, but do not have it plugged into the Zen yet. Just have the controller attached by a wire, but don't have the wire plugged into the Zen. That's the first thing you need to do. So then load up your PlayStation so you're on the main screen. Next, we're going to go ahead and get our Zen. Now, you only need the micro USB for this, so you can unplug it from the computer. We don't need it anymore, and we only want the cable attached to the top of it, which is the micro USB. As you can also see, the PlayStation 5 remote is still connected. The Zen is not connected to the PlayStation yet at all. You can see the PlayStation remote is still connected, works fine. We have the cable in the back of the PlayStation remote, but it's not connected to the Zen. This is really important to get it working without problems. Now go ahead and plug your Zen into the PlayStation. I personally use the front port. It's a bit nearer to where I sit. If you want it to work exactly like mine, just do the same thing. Plug it straight into the front, and you will see on the PlayStation it's recognized a new controller even though there's nothing plugged into the Zen. At this point, if you have bought a Hori controller, you will plug it into the right-hand side of the device. So you'll plug the controller, the Hori controller in here. That's if you have bought one of these because you've read online or seen videos that you need to have a Hori controller. You simply plug it into the right-hand side, and then you will click on your profile with the Hori controller. Then you plug your PlayStation 5 controller into the left-hand side, and it will essentially make the Hori controller redundant, and the PlayStation 5 controller will then take over. Now, that's all you need to do if you have the Hori controller. Now comes the workaround for people that don't have the Hori controller. If you don't have that, all you need to do is get your PlayStation 4 controller. I use this Nancom one here, but you can find a cheap one at your local game shop. You will plug this into the left-hand side port on the Cronus. There is a port on the far left. Plug this into the side of it right here. Once this is done, the PlayStation will once again say that it's recognized a new controller. Just press on your profile by pressing X, and you will see that this PlayStation controller is now controlling the PlayStation. I have the cables wrapped around it, so I'm not controlling it properly, but as you can see, it works perfectly fine. That's with the PlayStation 4 controller. Now at this point, all you need to do is get your PS5 controller, which is pre-wired, and just plug it into the left-hand port on the front where I'm doing right now. Once you plug this right in here, you will see that the PlayStation 5 controller now takes priority and now controls your PlayStation. You will have no problems with this whatsoever. You do need to have some kind of a donor controller to get it working perfectly on PlayStation 5 if you don't have the PlayStation 5 Cronus dongle, but they are quite hard to get hold of. Now, as you can see, when we pick our packs and we go to the controller and press triangle, you can see it switches between our primary and secondary guns that we have actually programmed on the Cronus. So you can see that's working. You press the button on the right of the Cronus to change profile, and the triangle button will actually control which gun you are using. Now that your Cronus is connected, if you want to use your headset, I use the PlayStation Pulse headset. You simply turn it on and off so that it syncs to your PlayStation. I have the dongle on the back of the PS5 device. You turn it on and then you can see it pops up saying who is using this controller. You will simply press X on your controller, and now your headset is working, your Cronus is working, your PS5 controller is working, and it will not cut out at all. You now have no issues with it whatsoever. Everything's working, and you have 2 Warzone packs connected. Now, if you're playing the game and someone notices your audio sounds weird, just go to your sound settings and check that your input device is the USB headset, because sometimes it will basically go through the PlayStation microphone on the controller, which sounds a bit poor, but it's a very, very quick fix if it does that. I really hope this introductory video to the channel has helped you set up your Cronus Zen. In the next videos, we're going to be looking at recoil values. You can suggest me any guns down below and I'll tell you exactly how to set them up with no recoil. I'm also going to show you very quickly before we go what the slide cancel feature does that we set up on those 2 packs and how to use it effectively. Anyway, let's jump over to the game and I'll show you that. That is how to set up a Cronus Zen on PS5. These are the settings that I currently use on Warzone. So I use tactical flipped. You can see that my dead zone's 0.05, 7.7 sensitivity. I really recommend using the aim response type as dynamic. The aim assist I simply use as standard. These are basically all the settings that I use on my system. For your slide cancelling to work really well, you want it on tap to slide. I suggest using automatic tactical sprint. I think is really, really good with this game as well. But anyway, have a look through all the settings that I've got. I also cover some of the general world settings, things like minimap shape, motion blur turned off on the weapons and on the game. I think it really, really restricts the movement on the actual game and the way it looks if you're playing a competitive shooter. These are the settings I have on PS5 anyway. Hopefully in the future we will get a field of view setting, but the jury is out on that one. Anyway, have a little look. These are everything that I use. Again, it has to match up with what's on the Cronus Zen, and as I said earlier, we'll jump into a very, very quick pre-game lobby and I'll show you how the slide cancel feature works as well. That's really the only additional feature I use with the Zen besides the general recoil control. I don't really like the aim assist. I think it messes up your aim. So again, that's why I have it set to just the slide cancel mode. As you can see, with the settings we've put on the Cronus, you will get a perfect tactical sprint every time you click in the circle button or the analog stick if you're using tactical. That is the end of this video. For the next video, we're going to be looking at gun recoil values. Stay tuned.